Sporting Jollof. This is the third and final part of the show, talking about the Champions League and Liverpool FC. So we are here back again in the studio, live and direct, and I'm joined for the final time tonight by the legendary FBJ.
Hi fans, hi people. Yes, third part. Let's do this, CJ. Let's do this. Let's finish strong.
Let's finish strong. Injury time. That's right. That's something that Liverpool needs to learn about. But anyway, talking about the Champions League qualifiers. Let's just start with obviously how things ended up last year. So Liverpool finished in 4th place and felt that they had secured a spot in Europe. Then obviously Man United went and won the Europa League, which guaranteed them a spot, which bumped us out of a spot, which meant that Liverpool now had to go through the qualifiers in order to get to the playoffs, in order to get to the Champions League. Do you think this is an advantage or a disadvantage?
Technically, you're actually incorrect there.
Oh,
because even though Liverpool finished 4th, they still would have to go through the qualifier.
Oh,
so Man United winning didn't make any difference to Liverpool.
Oh, I got it wrong. Hey,
don't worry, CJ. I got you back.
No, great, thank you. Great recoveries. That's a squeaky duck moment, that.
People, you just can't get the stuff. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, you mentioning that it did take a little bit of a gloss off in the fact that Man United finished 2 places below Liverpool, yet got direct entry and won a trophy. Whereas Liverpool, I know we're quite happy that Liverpool have a chance to be back in the Champions League, but just the 2 extra games. But the 2 extra games have come, and we're sitting on the eve of the second leg, and they've got a 2-1 advantage. Regarding Liverpool's chances, and before I do that, I alluded to something earlier in the previous part regarding Liverpool and the defensive setup, because it's key for tomorrow and Liverpool just in general, particularly in the Champions League, is that my fear of them is the in-game management. I know I said I'm concerned that Klopp perhaps maybe tactically doesn't set up to shut up shop when Liverpool have an advantage, or he's not necessarily helping the defence be comfortable or perform a little bit better than what they have been, because they're doing something that they're just not comfortable with, set pieces and what have you. And that's a telling part, because Hoffenheim had a chance right at death to make it 2-2, and we wouldn't be sitting on an advantage. Yes, we would have had the 2 goals, Liverpool that is, for going into the second leg, but it's critical. And these kind of errors, so to speak, just can't happen against Hoffenheim in the second leg. And it's the key for tomorrow's match, or tonight's match, depending on when people are listening, is that if Liverpool can keep a clean sheet, and I know this seems obvious, but if they can keep a clean sheet or be defensively sound, I'd always fancy them, not in just tomorrow's game against Hoffenheim, but just in general, because they're so good going forward. It's the defending that's what concerns me. And proof was in that against Crystal Palace. They didn't particularly play well, but if they gave themselves a chance to get the 3 points by not making any silly mistakes and being resolute at the back as best as they can. And they were given a chance, and Mane took it. So if they can, build on, just trying to keep clean sheets, starting against Hoffenheim, or continuing against Hoffenheim, I should say, then the Champions League beckons for them, and then that's when the real test comes, and we'll see just how good Klopp and this team are against the elite in Europe.
Yeah, so do you know what? It's really interesting. When I played back the game, obviously, first of all, woeful defending. Lovren was having a mare anyway, absolute mare. I mean, I've seen some diabolical defending, and if I could describe it in the dictionary, it would say Lovren. And and basically, obviously, he gave away the penalty, of which, Hoffenheim missed the penalty, which would have made a completely different spin to this story, because it would have been 2-2 going over to the Kop and a 0-0 start. And we can't forget that. That. And then in the same breath, a goal was disallowed by Hoffenheim on top, and yet deservedly an offside. But I just feel as though Liverpool, as much as they have an attacking prowess and can get forward with the likes of Sadio Mane and Firmino, and be creative, and obviously with the new addition of Salah, it's all undone in an instant, in a second, just like it was in this game, just like it was against Watford. Those last 10 minutes of each game, Liverpool have to brush up on their focus, their mental capabilities, and just to see a result out. Otherwise, tomorrow, I think, could be a very difficult night, even though it's at home. Liverpool scraped out a result against Crystal Palace rather than a thumping win, and that sort of attitude isn't going to get a team far, potentially, in the Champions League. It just doesn't cut it. And for me, the sooner Klopp works out what those back four are doing, the sooner success will come back to Liverpool as a football club.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great assessment in terms of you could perhaps get away with it in the Premier League, and I personally don't mind the dour, scruffy performances as long as they end up in victories, because you need to do that in the Premier League. There's so many there's a myriad of different teams and styles. So you can't play well all the time. But yeah, in Europe, you have to be on point. You have to be at your best because you're facing the best that Europe has to offer. And to go in with such a handicap of being poor defensively, it's woeful stuff. And I'm glad you mentioned about the attack and the silky stuff that happens going up top. I honestly do believe, and I've said this to some of my friends going into the season, if Liverpool are actually going to do anything starting tomorrow, because hopefully if they win, they're in the Champions League and 5 English clubs, or maybe 6 British clubs in total. But if Liverpool do the business, that's good for the British shores. If Liverpool are going to do anything, they're going to have to resemble season in terms of stats like they did again in season 13-14, where they scored over 100 goals and finished second, as we all know, but they conceded over 50 goals. And that's telling, because Liverpool are going to concede, but they're going to have to score so many goals to negate the amount of goals that they concede.
Correct.
Which and that season frustrates me. I know people talk about the Gerrard slip and what have you, and this, that, the other, but
another squeaky duck moment.
Yeah, all through that season, I was getting quite wound up because Liverpool weren't keeping clean sheets. I think they only kept 5, and they were having to score, 6 frees and 4 frees against Swansea and Cardiff, respectively. 3-2s, a lot of 3-2s, and I can see a similar thing like that happening. But when they go up against good opposition, and Hoffenheim are good opposition, where they will pose a threat going into tomorrow's game. But assuming Liverpool see the job done, Liverpool can't they can't rely on their attack to get themselves out of trouble. I mean, we even saw it last year where they were 3-1 up and lost 4-3
was it
Bournemouth.
Bournemouth, that's right. Yeah.
So at some point you need to be resolute defensively. These players, on paper, they're not really bad players, defense, but they certainly perform like it, and I do think, the system doesn't help them to either, and it just needs to be addressed. So, we'll see.
I mean, and also let's look at some additional events on the night. So let's not take away the goal by Trent, the young lad that's come in. Fantastic free kick, picked his corner well, lifted the roof on it, and what a great way to start your Champions League career. And that's a well-deserved goal. But on the same side, what takes away from this is that Liverpool walked away with a 2-1 win. But the second goal was essentially an on goal from a cross. It wasn't an open play goal. It wasn't a set piece. It was pretty much a mistake that I don't think we will see Hoffenheim make again tomorrow. But when you look at the statistics, it says 2-1 Liverpool with the away goal. And maybe sometimes this is just about scraping through to get properly seeded into the Champions League, and this is all part of the journey. However, one goal was good enough. The other goal was pretty much fluke to go in. And, when you look at it on the night, if they score that penalty, that's 2-2. That fluke doesn't go in, that's 3-1. And I know football's not a game that you can paint and decorate like that. But I think it's something that needs to be taken quite seriously. And tomorrow, Liverpool have to go in with a mindset that they are Liverpool and you've come to play at the Kop. That's what they have to go and do, and play their football and get up and down the pitch. No defensive woes. Enjoy bringing Champions League back to the Kop and just be themselves, and not allow Hoffenheim, who, just so you know, were a non-league team, injected with loads of cash and finished, I think, 4th or 3rd. I think it was in
it was 4th, yeah.
4th,
they finished the same position as Liverpool.
Right, and you're talking about 4th behind the likes of what's the Germans team now?
The
Bayern Munich.
Yeah,
that's right. You're not. It's not a 4th in. I don't want to name any European countries just in case I offend people, but. Asia. It's not an Asia 4th, is it? It's this is German football. So going back to the point that Liverpool just need to put in an excellent performance, mistake free. Don't play too comfortable. Don't play for the clock, but actually play for the Kop. Do you like that?
Well, very smooth.
Very smooth.
I don't think newspapers will come calling for if you're
all right, but if they do,
headlines there.
If they do, I'll be selling shares tomorrow. All right.
All right, fair enough. Don't forget us, Don't forget us.
No, of course.
When you make it big.
Well, we got last 30 seconds of the show. What's your prediction for tomorrow?
I just to wrap up, I actually think Liverpool should have had a bigger advantage. There was a spell where they could have got a bigger scoreline. And I think they'll show that tomorrow. So I'm going to go, because they can't keep a clean sheet. Not very good at. I'm going to go 3-1. I'm going to go 3-1. So, Champions League football back at the Kop for Klopp.
Brilliant. I like that as well. We're coming out with them tonight, aren't we? So, listen, FBJ, it's been great having you on the show. Great to be back in business. This is Sporting Jollof. FBJ, any final words before we go?
Keep listening. We're back.
Brilliant. So, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Sporting Jollof. We are trying to reach the worldwide. Our prayers and thoughts go out to those in Sierra Leone. And we will speak to you hopefully tomorrow after the game. But if not, next week. This is Sporting Jollof. I am Big CJ and my partner in crime, FBJ. Have a great night. Myself.